Welcome back to the Cabana, everyone. I'm Ernie Carswell, a real estate agent at Douglas Elliman in Beverly Hills, and I lead a team of 26 professionals. We call ourselves Ernie Carswell and Associates. The purpose of these Cabana series tapings here at my Cabana in the Bird Streets in Los Angeles is really to speak to my clients, sellers, buyers, and my colleagues and my team agents to discuss important topics in real estate, the market here in Los Angeles, the market across America, maybe even some international market talk because we are an international company. So thank you for joining us today. My subject today is how can you decipher conflicting news reports regarding real estate in the headlines, today's newspapers, or your news source on your phone or your laptop computer. I see them, so you must see them. One headline says, buyer market booming, inventory levels the lowest we've seen. And then you have neighbors whose homes are not selling. How can that be happening, that there may be a home that's not selling and this is supposedly the biggest buying boom we've had? So although these Cabana series are recorded for today's relevancy, the fact is what I'm going to talk about how to read news headlines in real estate is relevant for any market, any season, any predicament. Right now, a headline I saw that really caught my attention this morning said, Los Angeles is the tightest market in U.S. across the board as our inventory plummets 61% for new home lot supply. So when I saw our inventory is plummeted 61%, well, no wonder there's such a boom, right? And buyers can't get homes if inventory is down 61%. Well, that's not really what the headline says. The tail end of that says, for new home lot supply. So if you live in Los Angeles, how often do you drive by a vacant lot? I never do. So no wonder the inventory has plummeted 61%. We probably only had 10 lots in the city and maybe 2 of them fell out. But the point is, the inner city of Los Angeles, where many of us live, we really don't see vacant lots. The vacant lot shortage is happening way out on the perimeter of Los Angeles. In fact, in another county that's also considered Greater LA, Riverside, that's where there's a huge shortage of vacant lots. So if you read the headline today and you were thinking inventory is down 61%, it's the best time to enter the market for my home, you'd be misunderstanding the headline. So please read those carefully or speak to your real estate agent because we will decipher it for you. Sometimes they're written so cleverly by the press, we have to decipher them first. But let me answer this question that I get asked constantly these days. Is there really a buying boom? I get asked this by friends and folks that live on streets where they see a for sale sign down at their neighbor's house that's been there for 6 months. If there's a buyer's boom, why is that house unsold? Well, that leads to a very good question with a very true answer. And I want to get to that for you because I've been in some heavy conversations about that just in the last couple of weeks with sellers that don't understand why their house isn't selling. So who is in control? Is it the sellers or the buyers? Typically what we call a seller's market or a seller's controlled market is when homes are less than 50% available for the buyer demand, okay? That means the balance of time for a home to be on the market is going to be much shorter because there's more buyer demand. And as it drops down below 50% of availability, buyers get squeezed, there's less for them to choose from, so sellers gain more control at the negotiation table. But it doesn't mean that every seller in the region is in control. If they've overpriced their home, or if their home has a significant obvious defect, telephone poles right in front of the front door or something like that, they're not going to be helped by the buyer's boom unless they correct the price or correct the defect. So just understand, headlines don't control how fast or slow your house sells. There are too many particulars. For instance, what about the category your house falls in? That category could be price, luxury price, mid-range price, buyer level entry price. That's where there's a huge boom right now in Los Angeles and really across the country. I'm going to speak to you about why the millennials are creating that boom. The other category is it a resort or second home, or is it the primary home? Well, resort homes are booming. The luxury, wealthy, affluent clientele that want to get out of cities and get out of metropolitan areas are booming that business in areas like Lake Tahoe, Idaho, Laguna, the Pacific Northwest. The other thing to consider is location. You know the rule about real estate values: location, location, location. So whether something is booming and the headline is appropriate has a lot to do with location. Neighborhood. If you say Los Angeles, there's 100+ neighborhoods in the city of Los Angeles. Not all of them are booming, okay? So you've got to be particular about which neighborhood is being spoken about. And then the demographic. Is that property for a young couple or a retiring couple? Very different demographics, different solutions for those buyers when they're looking at homes and the type of homes they want to see. Or is that property for a single buyer or a family? So, is there a buying boom, and why is there a buying boom? Well, I've got 5 points about what could be causing this buyer's boom. First of all, there's a changed perception in the public right now as the idea of home as a workstation or a refuge for open air and an increased outdoor lifestyle. During the pandemic time, people were forced to work from home. Many of those learned that they could work from home. I'm one of them. I like working from home, but I usually work from the office. But for that year, I was forced to work from home. So we adapted. Some people don't want to go back to the office. I'm going back to the office. We've just done that recently. But I think the general population, a big percentage of people will continue working from home and have created special workstations or have needed to buy a house where they can have a better workstation at home. Also, the idea of having more indoor-outdoor flow. Apartment dwellers and condominium dwellers have created a big percentage of the buying public recently because they wanted homes with gardens or terraces and outdoor space because they were cooped up in their condo or apartment. Number 2 reason, let's talk about millennials. I spoke earlier that I promised to tell you this. Millennials and that segment of our population have now reached the age of serious home buying, and they comprise the largest share of new home buying people in the population. They are considered the most influential generation of buyers since the baby boomer generation, which dates back to like the 50s. So this is going to have a lot of impact for the next few years as millennials move through the home buying ranks. The third reason, since the 2007 financial meltdown that affected all of America, home builders and single-family home builders specifically have radically pulled back, or they've underbuilt the quantity of homes that they were building prior to 2007. Many of those migrated from building single-family homes over into the multifamily category. So single-family homes have lost some primary development support since the 2007 meltdown. We're still repairing from that 14, 15 years later. So that's something to realize. There can be long recovery periods depending on the depth of a trauma that happens in our economy. Interesting to note, almost 25% of house transactions occurring right now are selling to investor groups and investors. Investors are wanting to purchase homes and use them as income building properties. I have that question asked to me often from buyers who are investors wanting to purchase homes to use for Airbnb or vacation rentals. This is a big segment of the population now coming into the home buying movement. The fourth reason there could be a buyer's boom happening. There was a labor shortage that occurred during the pandemic in the construction industry, which created a backlog of those needs and a slowdown for all of the construction that usually goes focused toward single-family home building. So the labor shortage was one factor. And the fifth factor, which could have been the first reason, interest rates being the lowest in our lifetime, although they have been predicted to begin rising throughout 21 into year 2022. Look, these were some difficult problems that the economy has had to absorb at least the real estate economy in the housing world, but there is some good news. I like to leave everyone with good news. It's about our sister city on the other side of America, New York City, which was heavily hurt by the pandemic when New Yorkers, or Manhattanites I should say, fled the city to the outer areas of the city, or just left town altogether and went to Florida or came to California or to the country somewhere. The last quarter in New York City just ranked the biggest quarter of signed contracts since 2007, since that meltdown. And I just celebrate that with all of my New York colleagues because the city is coming back in a big way. This may be the biggest boom from New York City in decades. So we are glad to hear that about our New York City folks and listeners. Meanwhile, here in Los Angeles, we'll keep digging up the stories that we can share with you. We'll keep deciphering the news. Please call us if something's confusing in your neighborhood or on your news source. We always want to be a part of the solution and to help you with anything that pertains to our business. We're here for you, and until then, I'll be here in the cabana giving it a lot of thought.